This thing has been buried in the ground for 30 years. I figured there was a good chance he'd never be found again. It will not be easy.
Well, John, first of all, I would like to know what was the first thing that caught your attention from the script the first time you read it?
Well, I knew that Jeff was involved before I even read it. And so I was already really interested. I didn't really know Jeff. I'd only met him once in passing on a red carpet. I've always loved his work. He's a very special actor. And I think everybody feels that way about Jeff Bridges. They sort of suspect that he's a wonderful guy, that he's loose and cool and relaxed and has no trouble with his ego, and he really loves acting. I think everybody senses that about Jeff. So did I, and it's all true. So I think the first thing that interested me about the project was 2 words, Jeff Bridges. But then, I read the story. I loved the fact that it centered on 2 old men rather than 2 young men. Jeff and I spent a lot of time arguing about who was Butch Cassidy and who was the Sundance Kid as old men. But also, John Steinberg had written a great script. I got together and talked with him about it, and he told me about the whole story arc, which was extremely compelling. There's a whole bunch of stuff about the series that I cannot tell you because it's full of surprises. And
it is.
And John told me those surprises, and oh boy, that hooked me in. It's a story that unfolds. Secrets are revealed, and they are secrets about things that by the time they're revealed, you really care about these people.
The thing that caught my attention the most, honestly, I think the answer of the day has been that these creators weren't afraid to take their time, that they wrote a character that even while he's got and there's one of my scenes in the second episode is just like 3-4 pages of exposition. It was one of the longest auditions I've ever had. And yet I felt this space to connect and play that I've never felt before on anything that gave me that much exposition to play with.
It was largely the writing, everything from the writing. This is the first time you read a piece of material as far as what the series is gonna be like, what the sensibilities of the creators are. They largely the type of actors are going to try to bring in to tell these stories.
The main thing about this show is this broken relationship about these 2 characters, and how did you build that with him? Because it is amazing to see that even when you're not seeing each other on the show, that you're always apart, that you can feel that tension between those characters.
Well, it's just wonderful to hear you say that, because that's what we were certainly hoping for. And it had to happen fast. We rehearsed together, if you can call it rehearsal, for 1 day. Long, and that day was like 2.5 years ago. We got together, and the only scene we actually rehearsed was a scene neither of us were actually going to be in. It was the scene between the 2 characters when they were young.
Yeah.
We just thought, what the hell? Let's act this scene. That's the only one we actually worked on. Mainly we just talked. We got to know each other. It was instant trust, and we built confidence in both in each other and in the whole project. And then off we went to act our 2 storylines. It was about 2 years later that we finally got to act together in the last 2 episodes of this first season. And it was worth waiting for. He's just a wonderful actor and a delightful man.
And since you're saying this about the writing, about the time you had to expand these characters, something that caught my attention is how long the episodes are, but also that you don't feel that they're this long. And it's like you're watching a movie in every single episode. And it's something that it's happening with many TV shows nowadays. How do you live this as actors, that you have like the opportunity of shooting like little movies on every episode?
I think for me, I feel trusted when they cast you on something that is unafraid to take their time. I felt really seen on this show as an actor. I felt like what I thought and what I said mattered to the people behind the camera. That if I had an issue or I had a curiosity, it was met with love and real concern and interest. I like to remind myself, be curious, not furious. And sometimes people are so busy behind the scenes trying to get it done, they don't allow themselves to be curious about not their actors and everyone else. But when you are, you give space for that person to do what they do. I felt like I really had space to spread my wings here.
That's a very good question. It's really tough. There were moments, I have to confess, I got completely lost in the storytelling. A lot of that had to do with the fact that we shut down for 18 months. First because of COVID, then because of Jeff's health problems. By the time we got back together, I barely remembered my character's name. It had been so long. It was very easy to come back to it. Besides which, when I finally did come back to it, I was finally working with Jeff.
Benga, you play a character that has this kind of special skills, right? Because he's a special operation agent, and they call him for a very specific reason. How is it for you to build a character that has these extraordinary abilities that normal people we do not have?
I mean, as an actor, as a kid, it's fun. We get to make believe. I mean, this is what you spend your whole life pretending to be good guys, bad guys who can do all kinds of amazing things, and we are fortunate. Some of the most fortunate people in the world to be able to do this for a living, like EJ and I, to pretend to be these guys who we used to pretend to be when we were kids. Now as far as the character, there's a cost. There's that skill set, the things he can do, all cost. They took away from his life, took away from the quality of his life, took away from his mental peace and stability, but he's gotten it. There's a world. I remember, I think I was talking to John about this. Like if he had continued with his career in the military, he would have become Dan Chase.
How is it for you two to work with this thing that you don't know which side you should be on?
One of the hard things for a lot of us to accept is that sometimes so much of right and wrong is perspective and choice. For Benga's character, Julian, right, Benga? You look at it from one direction and he's doing the right thing by providing for his grandmother and taking care of his family. And often a person will do whatever they have to do to take care of their family. I think the same goes. He's right. There's a mirror there for Dan Chase. He's the action hero who got away and survived with his love. And what you're watching in this show is the aftermath of that action hero. You get to see what really happened when they're creating a new world for themselves. So is he wrong for that? For attempting to create a safe space with his family, and he's left that world of whatever deeds or misdeeds behind.
And another thing I really like is this, what I call the John Wick formula, that is have this main hero that is against the world, but he has these things that you're not sure if he's a good man, if he's a bad guy. You're always on those dynamics. And what do you think that makes this kind of formula work? Because it's something that we've seen a lot in movies and in TV shows, that they have this single man that we don't know if it is good or it is bad, but you want him to be safe at the end of the road.
You're so right. I don't know whether that is part of the zeitgeist these days, but it's certainly the thing that I enjoy acting the most. People are complicated. People are both good and bad. And the interplay of good and bad in a single person, and the struggle to do the right thing when there is so much pressure on you to do the wrong thing, that really is the essence of great storytelling and great character building. You're very smart on the subject. You should think about writing a screenplay, by the way. But I always
I'll think about it.
I always go after two things in sort of exploring a character. First of all, where are those characters' insecurities, vulnerabilities, and fears? That's one thing. And I'm also fascinated by the interplay of good and evil, just as you say. What happens when a good person is forced to do something bad? Or a bad person is, for some amazing reason, suddenly does something good. I mean, those are such compelling moments, because all of us walk through life trying to do the good thing, do good things, but constantly doing the wrong things for the craziest reasons. You know, that just makes for great storytelling.
There's a couple of things. One, it's the hero's journey, you know, like in it at the very core and essence of it, and that speaks to how we understand and appreciate storytelling as human beings. So it's very relative. It's why John Wick has done so well. Just it's the reluctant hero gets called to act, and then has to choose, and then doesn't want to, and then is forced to act, and it's all that the way we tell stories as human beings is how it is at the core of the old man. That being said, in addition to that, rather, our stunt team is actually the stunt team from John Wick, Tim Connolly, Hank, all those guys. So they understand storytelling better than maybe any other stunt team in the game right now. And so they bring that, like the script is telling, you have the script telling one story, the cinematography telling another.
Just the idea that we're creating an aftermath action movie, the movie after the action movie, with a man who's in his 70s. For me, it's that they make it as realistic as possible. One of the guys who's one of the liaisons for the show, who's in that world for real, or used to be a little bit, said recently, I think his wife told me, like, sometimes we don't realize how difficult it really is to take another human being's life. And I think this show respects that. There's a moment in the pilot where Dan's in the car after it's flipped over, and he's looking at that second assassin, and he's just got his hands tied and that knife in his hand. He's broken. And what you see is an animal backed into a corner. He's giving everything to not die, to protect his family. And I think that this show really honors not just what you would really have to go through to go through these situations, but honors what a human being will do to protect those he loves, especially with the training that Dan Chase has. He's not going into it like it's a action movie that you go for quick explosions and fun. He's going into it with intelligence. He's not fighting like a 20-year-old man in a 70-year-old body. He's fighting he grabs his own jacket to choke the guy because his arm's not strong enough. He's not perfect. Watching us play with those imperfections is what makes you believe this could happen.